Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Open Book Entrepreneur, where we actually talk about what the real entrepreneurial journey is and we interview the real entrepreneurs. So we have Jimmy today from Pennsylvania in US, and he's a podcaster. He's also a personal trainer. And Jimmy, please introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a professional keynote speaker, podcaster, live stream host, autism advocate, and I help motivate people to live a healthier lifestyle with all my motivational messages to podcasting, keynote speaking. Uh, I don't walk the walk, I talk the talk.
Excellent. Yeah. So, welcome to the podcast, and tell us a little bit about your business journey and how did you become entrepreneur? Like, what actually inspired you to start your own business?
Well, basically, it basically started as a passion project of mine. Uh, I was just finishing up my uh, let's say my first 2 semesters of college. One of, and I had to take English, and I was like, okay, I want to becoming a better writer because let's just say my writing skills were terrible. I mean, and I'm not saying that from my perspective. My professor didn't say those in exact words, but with all the X's and marks on the papers, it's like, yikes! Even the leprechaun from Lucky Charms wouldn't be able to find the gold in that and the treasure in that. So basically, uh, I started, uh, and our minds don't we don't consistently do stuff each time if we find something boring. So I said, okay, to continue my better writing, I'm gonna make a website. First mistake I ever made, well, my first mistake I made was going to WordPress. And I'm not bashing WordPress, but just in my opinion, I mean, just in my experience, and I come from a technological background, from my dad running IT and when he was working, and then my brother taught me stuff, and then I took it upon myself to learn more. But running a website was a whole different ballpark of ugly. And I was like, what the frig is this mess? I was like, where do I start? Well, fast forward. Uh, so uh, it just evolved into from a passion project to I started my keynote speaking at the end of 2019, just at the height of the pandemic, before I came to the US. And my my one professor in college who I stay in touch with, and who's currently my professor in this semester in college. I've had her for 6 or 7 different classes, and she told me, it's like, Jimmy, as a keynote speaker, the only way to get your message out right now, because no one's knows how to do stuff online yet for the pandemic. I mean, and this was a couple years ago, so um, she was telling she said it's like the only way to get your message out, you need to no one's doing online conferences yet, etc. And so she said, like, start your podcast. I'm like, I looked at her like my dogs look at me, and I was like, and they gave me like I have 6 different heads, and it's like, start a podcast? Are you freaking nuts? I was like, so on top of me running all the admin tasks of my business, and at the time uh, I mean, I was on Squarespace, but there's still so many admin things I was doing. It's like, are you kidding me? You want me to start a podcast? Are you crazy? But I'm glad that she pushed me past my boundaries, past my boundaries, past my comfort zone. And because here I am today, running, kind of going into my 5th year of podcasting, and I'm like, I love it, every second of it. Um, I got tired of the writing parts a little bit because from my own business, because I was like, I'm not having fun with all the uh with the SEO, the rankings, and Google search and whatnot. I know there's a whole cluster stuff for later on, uh, but the podcasting I like because I get to meet new people. I get to talk on other people's shows, and I was like, screw this all this admin stuff. But later on, I decided to jump to this other platform, but it developed into a business because uh, I had other ideas for the was the podcasting, selling merch, and it just evolved in something bigger than what I had originally planned for. I mean, technically, I didn't really have the original plan for. It just happened magically like this. It's like, okay, the universe told me I need to make this into a business. I was like, okay, universe, I'm listening.
Exactly. And then what's sort of like who are the clients that you usually serve?
It my typical client that I serve people with like autism, any extra challenges. But I also cater to both people with extra challenges and non-extra challenges. So I have a little bit of both. And you might be wondering, is like, why the heck would you do that? Well, I didn't, I've seen a lot of podcasts out there in the autism world. A lot of them are dormant. They don't, they're not publishing any new content anymore. So I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to make my podcasting for the autism community, around the autism community, we're more we're more than just our autism selves. We have other passions that we like to talk about and whatnot. And so since I have a lot of different guests on with other different backgrounds, I was like, okay, my main focus is going to be people with extra challenges and non-extra. But then I was like, but I want to cater to the non-extra challenges as well to motivate both sets of groups of people. So, and it keeps it interesting. It keeps me want to keep going because I learned something else, learned something more. I absorbed information like a sponge. So it keeps me on the toes because if I just keep talking about autism, and I'm on the autism spectrum, it get boring eventually because I mean, I'm not a boring person and the autism community is not boring, but it is like, well, how many topics can you come off with about autism, do this and do this? And I'm sure there's a lot of things, but I wanted to cater to more than just one specific thing.
Totally. And what's been one of the biggest business successes in your career so far?
I think the biggest success I've had so far with being recognized as Speaker of the Year. I just won the award yesterday and accepted the award yesterday.
Congratulations.
Uh, Thank you. The email, the people who picked me says like out of all of the applicants, yours stood out the most. And I was like, I've never been told that in my entire. It's like I've been around. Uh, this is my 199 guest appearance, and I was like 8 years and 199 guest appearance, and someone finally recognized me for my work. And it's like, thank you. I was like, all I just want was a thank you, and here's your.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah, that sounds fantastic. And then, so can you tell us a little bit more about this exercising that you do and stuff? Because that sounded interesting. Like you say, you're doing a lot of these workouts at home, and
Yeah. So growing up on the autism spectrum has not been easy. I mean, I'm 31 now, but uh, there was a lot. I call them autism meltdowns, and what I basically explain it as they're like they're like category one, two, three, four, and five hurricanes. five being obviously the worst, and mine always ended up on the fifth. And basically what an autism meltdown is like, think of it as like pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong. You just stuff go flying out the front of the room. I mean, this was all growing up as a kid, so nothing now. When stuff overwhelms me now, my brain might just like temporary shut down for like a split second, and my um, be a little frustrated about something, or but other than that, nothing like that happens. But basically, fitness has been my way to relieve the extra energy and release the stress on everyday life with living with autism. And it's not just stress; it just like I sometimes my brain over analyzes or try to figure out people's facial cues, and then when can't, and I'm not really good at reading people's facial cues, then I'm like, what's this person thinking of me? It's like, do they think I'm an idiot? Do they think, and this, and so I was like, what do they think if they found out I'm autistic? I was like, would they treat me differently? And I don't like being treated differently. I don't mind getting accommodations to have a better learning experience in college and whatnot. What I'm talking about being treated differently is people talking down to me. For instance, uh, well, I know this is a little off topic, but here's an example. I'm butting heads with two health insurance companies that I'm uh, I don't work for, but they give me services, and uh, they basically stated to me, it's like, we're going to be sending you a link to your hearing uh, via letter, but just to let you know, you cannot uh, open the link in the letter. I'm like, no crap. And it's like, I've been using a computer since 4 years old. And it's like, don't talk down to me. It's like, just because you discovered technology the first time in 100 plus years does not mean I'm stupid. I'm autistic. I'm not stupid. Um, Obviously, I did not say any word whatsoever about that. But I was like, this is gonna make a great story for a podcast. And so I've been just sharing ever since. It's like, if it gets under their skin, I hope so.
Totally. And yeah, tell us if someone wants to actually find out a little bit more about you, about your podcast and stuff, like how they can find out. What's the name of your podcast? And please share a little bit more details about that.
So my podcast can be found on pretty much every single platform out there. It's called Crazy Fitness Guy Healthy Living Podcast. Now, before you say that's a mouthful, uh, my the first name that I came up with, it used to be 66 characters long. Now it's down to like, let's say 40. I know that you might say why that, but I was like, well, it now shows up on the first page of Google, and Google gave it's a knowledge graph, meaning that it's kind of like, think of it as like a knowledge graph is pretty much just like a snippet of text of what it finds important, and when it deems that you're the kind of expert in your niche, it gives you that graph. There's no other way. There's not a secret sauce to get it. It just whatever Google thinks that is relevant. And so they gave me the knowledge graph, and I was like, okay, I'm not changing anything. So I'm keeping the name, even if it's a little bit wordy from other people's point of view. And it's like, well, if Google likes it and thousands of other people like it, and I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Totally, totally. I think on that note, we can actually complete this episode. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And yeah, great. Really wonderful to have you here as guest, Jimmy. Thank you all for watching and listening to this episode, and see you in the next episode of Open Book Entrepreneur.
Thank you for having me.